Hi, everybody. I'm Ari Shaffir, and today, February 23rd, 2021, is the 10-year anniversary of one of the most boring, drawn-out, self-serving, overly intellectual, unfunny for a comedian piece of broadcasting in the history of media. That's right, 10 years of Ari Shaffir's Skeptic Tank podcast. And what a wild ride it's been. 10 years ago, a friend of mine by the name of Brian Redban finally talked me into starting a podcast of my own. He said, Ari, it's working for a friend of ours named Johnson Rojat. And if it's working for Johnson Rojat, it can work for you too. Come on, I'll set it up, just start it. And I struggled. I struggled with how I'm going to do it. I was like, I don't want to be just another comic, just talking. Just a comic being funny. I don't know. There's no theme. Who could go anywhere with that? Theo Vaughn's doing theaters. Tom Segura's doing theaters. Bert Kreischer's doing theaters. So I was like, I got to do something different. And my friend Eric Abrams, the guy who started This Is Not Happening with me, he said, Ari, why don't you do something like that? Why don't you do a different topic, just like you do a different theme each episode of This Is Not Happening? I was like, that's a great idea, Eric. So I pigeonholed myself. I pigeonholed myself into doing a different topic with a different comic or a different person every single week. And it was difficult. I wish I hadn't. I wish I had just done comics being funny. But when there's a pigeon, there's a hole, and I'll find it. So I've done some good ones. I've done some really interesting ones. And a lot of fucking shitty ones. Man, some of those are so goddamn boring, I don't even mind you turning it off. Here's some of my favorites. You should jump cut this to tighten it up, because I went over the whole list, and it's fucking long. But here it is. Maybe you can put it on the screen. I don't know. The first one I could think of, probably, I don't know, one of the best ones. First Responder, a 9/11 story. It probably is the perfect example of what I like to do with this podcast. It was funny in the beginning. We chat on Italians for about 35, 40 minutes while you got to know the guests. You got to humanize them. That's what I like to do. And then we got into a deeply emotional and sad story about being a first responder in 9/11 and tearing through the rubble and finding dead bodies and partially alive bodies. And it was pretty rough. You should go back and listen to that. Every 9/11, you should listen to that. I started with Dave Smith, a podcast called Fuck the Government, which turned into a yearly podcast we do called The State of the Union with Dave Smith. I think Joe Rogan found Dave Smith out of that. Actually, I'm pretty proud of one of the things I've done is I've managed to help introduce people to some of my favorite comedians. Dave Smith is an example. Miss Pat. I'm so happy that a lot of people found Miss Pat through me. Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura. They were pretty much going on their own already. But Ali Sadiq. I'm trying to think who else. Adrian Appalucci now. Big J. Tons of people that people are like, I never knew they existed. And then I heard them on your podcast. And it makes me proud. It makes me really proud. Here's some more great podcasts you might want to listen to. Obsessive Compulsive with Eli Sayers. War Stories with Jake Hanrahan. That guy's definitely coming back. E-Rage. Steve Renazzisi, Shane Gillis, and Corinne Fisher. Guys, I don't know what do you want to call it? Cancel culture, rage. I call it E-Rage. I call it people getting mad online. And it so well I would say perfectly, but nothing I do is perfect. Encapsulates the state we're in right now, where people are trying to tear down artists' ability to be artists. A few different people going through nearly the same thing. You should listen to that one. It's interesting. Psychedelic Christmas with Duncan Trussell. That was a good one. One of my best and most misunderstood podcasts, Troll with Milo Yiannopoulos. He's not what you think. If you're willing to listen to my podcast with an open mind, you will figure out that the media lied to you and misrepresented who the guy is. If you're not willing to listen with an open mind, then you're not going to enjoy it. But if you're willing to, like a lot. Okay, so I should stop here. This is what I mean by skeptic. Skeptic doesn't mean I don't believe you. Skeptic means I want to find out all the details. Skeptic, it gets misconstrued as like, no, but that's not how I use it. I use skeptic as, oh, really? Let me research all about your details. And that's what I do with this podcast. One of the early ones, Al Madrigal. We talked about just being a parent. I don't know much about being a parent. I asked some legit questions. Do you favor one kid over the other? Real questions that I wanted to know. And that's what this podcast is. Real questions that I want to know about a certain situation. Chester the Molester, that comes to mind. My friend Mr. Dudley from Austin, Texas, got molested when he was younger. But we just talked about it, and it was great. It was a great conversation. The Podfather with Brian Redban, which got me to start YouTube. It's got me to start a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Ari Shaffir, which you're watching right now. Subscribe to this if you could. Hit subscribe right there. tons of new content. We're also going to put up all the old episodes. When I say we, I mean I have nothing to do with it. I'm just paying people way more money than I'm making to fucking put this shit up. So on YouTube, all the old ones are going to be up there, so you can find those again. So do me a favor, subscribe. Spange with a homeless person named Tallboy. I say person because they're gender fluid. First time I understood what gender fluid was. Mephistopheles with Jessa Reed, all about heroin use. Man, that was fucking good. Fun is a 4-letter word with Bert Kreischer. We did it while he wore a dress he bought at a thrift store next door in my old apartment in New York, and we smoked cigars. Fun time. Gas the Jews. I don't know what that one is. What's Gas the Jews? I don't know. I wrote it down, but I don't remember which one that is. But look it up. Mitzi. It's a podcast I did all over Australia. Right after Mitzi Shore died, I did it in, I guess, 3 different regions in Australia. Just mostly while I was just driving, walking through parks, and it was just like my memory of a woman who really meant a lot to my comedy career, who was my biggest mentor and supporter in this world, and she died and passed, and it made me think a lot about her. It was a great one. Some of these go really long. Take My Wife, Please with Aubrey Plaza, all about open relationships. Vagabonder with Rolf Potts. You're going to love that. If you like travel, you're going to love Vagabonder. Low School, Caveman, Bird is Fat. I think that's the one that started the Sober October Challenge. I think Bird is Fat, and then the one right before that, Jobs or something with Tom Segura. It was a 1-2, and they each talked about how much they were fucking losing weight, and that's when I put in the challenge. If you become unobese by a certain date, I'll take you to a fucking sporting event. I ended up taking them to the national championship game, Alabama versus Georgia. Cost me $12,000. I did not think it out. I don't have that kind of money. It really hurt me financially, but I fucking pay my debts. Cleavage Day. I did 2 Cleavage Day podcasts that you have to listen to. One with Gary Veter, who walked around Central Park, was so-so. Another one with all 3 of the Legion of Skanks, where we just walked around staring at chicks on Cleavage Day, which is a term I heard from Neil Brennan about the first day in spring in New York, which is the best day to be a fucking heterosexual dude or a fucking lesbian dyke. We just stare at fucking chicks. I got to do that again. Now that I have lav mics, I'm going to do that again. And we can really get our fucking creep on. Here's a great one with Henry Rollins. Not All Those Who Wander Are Lost. We did it from Edinburgh, Scotland. And man, he has some fucking stories. I remember that was the first time I realized that Joe Rogan was listening to my podcast. He was like, Ari, that was fucking, he compliment, made me feel fucking good. When a fucking other mentor of mine tells me I enjoy the shit you're doing. Made me feel good. He also asked me like, hey, who's that fucking singer at the end? I think it was, the song was Warny Warny. I think that's what it was. I got a Spotify playlist of all the fucking songs I've ever used on Skeptic Tank on the audio. Go check out the Spotify playlist. Running of the Bulls, about Kai Humphreys and a couple of his friends running with the Bulls in Pamplona, Spain, and fucking almost dying. That was a fucking great one. And that one, I remember Bert Kreischer going, dude, I listened to that, and I was fucking tremendous. He ended up having Kai Humphreys on his podcast. I just, that's one of the things I love. I love when people discover and help other people from my, I don't know. I just love it. Aunt Flo, which is all about fucking periods. That was a good one. New York Pizza Party with Alexis, where we just walked around Manhattan and we tried some of the best pizza in the world. He took me on a pizza tour. Door Guys 2 with Bobby Lee, talking about being a door guy at the Comedy Store. Knife Hits in Alaska, Dan Soder, fucking great one. Money for Nothing. The Ari Shaffir interview, part 1 and 2. Danish and O'Neill interviewed me. That's another one. Every 100 episodes, every 50 episodes, starting with episode 100, 150, 200, 250, 250, 300, all those. I got Danish and O'Neill on my podcast. They're some of the most disgusting podcasts you'll ever hear. Oh, those are fucking great ones. Death Wish. Oh, Death Wish was about it was a live one we did about suicide. Nikki Glazer. I forget, John Doerr's sister. I forget her name. And one other guy, I can't remember his name at all now, but he had that HBO special about fucking suicide. Oh, it got real. Somebody's like, this ain't funny at all. From the audience. He goes, this isn't funny at all. And I'm like, yeah, it's not supposed to be. Nikki was like, all right, we got to be funny. I'm like, no, Nikki, I want to try some shit. Who's Walking Whom? I think that one might actually be the one that Joe Rogan said he was listening to my podcast. Me and Gary Veter talking about dog walking. That was a fucking hilarious one. It's from the backyard of my fucking apartment. And I've done it from such crazy places. That's the fun thing too. I don't just do it in the studio. I like doing it DIY. Iceland, the Great Wall of China, all over Europe. Where else? Australia, Hong Kong, Scotland, Montreal, Toronto. I did one with Paul Morrissey. We went to a fucking baseball game. Take me out to the ball game. Runner's World called it one of the best podcasts of that year. I had nothing to do with running. We did it on the subway, on the way to the subway, and then from the subway into Yankee Stadium, and then at Yankee Stadium. You could hear the crack of the bat. That's the great thing about podcasts. You can do them however you want, and I've really enjoyed doing them how I want. Let's run these down. Palsy. Tenement with Nick Mullen back when he was fucking poor as shit. Prison Rules with Ali Sadiq. The guy's got great stories. One of my proudest things was introducing the world through This Is Not Happening and my podcast to Ali Sadiq. He's a fucking amazing storyteller. You might have seen him on Joe Rogan recently. I am proud that guy got discovered by one of the biggest podcasts in the world through me. It makes me happy. Paid regular, about a whole trip of how I became a paid regular at the Comedy Store. That was a solo one. Listen, I've cried too many times in this podcast. For a comedy podcast, I've cried too many times. I cried when I was talking about Ralphie May in the outro of one of my podcasts. I don't try to. I try not to, but it happens. Injection protection about safe shoot-up spots in Vancouver. At the end of that one, I told everybody how what they really needed more than anything in the world was new socks. And if you really wanted to help that Christmas, you could send a six-pack of socks to the safe injection spot in Vancouver. And they got fucking rained on by socks. We did something good together. We did something good. HIV for Victory with Jeff Scott, piano player at the Comedy Store who just passed away. All about how he got HIV in the 80s. The real AIDS. The 80s AIDS. Black Lana with Miss Pat. Listen, I didn't discover Miss Pat. Eddie If did. But I was happy to have found her. And I met her when she was coming to visit. She was staying with somebody in Brooklyn. She changed wigs real quick. And we went out to a park in Brooklyn. And we sat there and we talked. We met and we talked. And we got stared at by Hasidic people who thought I was shitty for talking to a black woman. And they were right. I should never have talked to you, Miss Pat. You're a disgusting woman. Miss Pat is one of the realest people in the world. She's always had my back. She's a real friend. If you can have her as a friend, you'll be better off. I don't remember which episode this is. I think it's about me and Jay, about his garbage taste in music. We did it from on top of a roof, and we looked in and we tried to find different people who were fucking or undressing. We were peeping toms. It's not the first time we were able to find somebody, too. One time we were doing a podcast. We did it at the cellar, and then we walked all the way home to his house, dropped him off, and then we saw a chick across the street. Fucking! That's the dream! Full fucking in New York, one flight up so we could get a fucking lick. She was riding this dude. It was awesome. I took you there because it was on fucking camera. That was another one. We saw these when me and Jay were on the roof. At that time, or maybe about quitting smoking. I don't remember, but it's fun to look in the windows. And we saw some guy and some girl trying to get laid, and it ends up being on their phone the whole time. And that's another time that Joe Rogan was like, listen to the podcast, Ari. You're right. People are on their phone too much. And that was fucking a few years ago when it wasn't nearly that bad. Maniac. That's another one with J-Fod. That was a great one about his, I guess, schizophrenia. I don't even know what you would call it anymore, but he went nuts. Mania. Yeah, mania. Manic depressive? Manic? I don't know, whatever. We did that in a park. Some kids were like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, we're doing a podcast. Some like handball kids. I'm like, can we talk? And they're like, what's up, America? Oh, and one of my favorite ones, the Shooter live table read. I did my very my only script I ever wrote in college, Shooter. It was terrible. I put it on stage at the Bell House. I put it on. And some people did a table read. Some great comics. Michelle Wolf, Dan Soder was Shooter, Dave Attell, Stavros, Giannis Pappas. These guys have all gotten fucking bigger now. Except Attell and me. We're both way smaller. Who else was there? Was Tim Dillon? No. Who was? Oh, Danish and O'Neill were there. That was a fucking great one. That was Danish and O'Neill. I think that was episode 300 maybe, or 400, maybe 300, 350 maybe. I don't know. That was great. You're going to want to listen to that one. Oh, here's a good one. Divorce, of course, with the Seroffs. Well, now they're not both Seroffs. Two different people, the man and the woman, divorce, done separately, and both versions of what a divorce was like. That was a fucking... I like doing fun shit. I like doing weird shit. The Streets USA, Asperger, Prostitute Fruity with an actual, at the time, current prostitute. She's retired now. The Nut House with Brody Stevens right after he got out of the psych ward, where they cured him of his depression. Didn't take UCLA psych ward. Not the best job. You bought him a few years. Son of the Mob, Gender Bender. That was the first one I ever did with a trans person. Oh, Rape and Eggs. Especially Cutting, where I did a fucking long intro about Anderson Silva losing for the first time in my career. Listen, some of these intros I do, I'll admit it. Some of these intros go way too fucking long and they're boring and they're drawn out for no reason. But some of them are fucking good. And that was a fucking good one. That was a fucking good one. Some of these intros and outros, I get it. You want to just skip. They should be 4 minutes. And even then, probably too long. I think that one went like 45 fucking minutes. I'm a moron. I don't know. Sometimes I'm indulgent. Sometimes I'm too self-indulgent. That one was fucking good. But the podcast itself was about a fucking cutter. I'm telling you, we managed to make funny, Jussie Dodge, she's a comedian. We managed to make funny, serious topics. I don't like to fucking sit in them and go like, oh, woe is me. I like to go like, wow, that's interesting. Why not? Why not have some fun when you're discovering some new fucking topic? And that's what Ari Shaffir Skeptic Tank has been for 10 fucking years. I should make a list of all the fucking shitty ones. Womb of Doom, about some chick who had a fucking miscarriage. Did we make it funny? I don't know. Some of these are not as funny. Rape and Eggs, that was about a rape. From the woman's point of view, who got raped. Dude, that's a good one. I should interview a male rapist. Here's who I've wanted to get on the podcast. Oh, I'll tell you some people that at the end of this, I'll tell you some people that I wanted to get that I was unable to. And I'll tell you some dream podcasts. The Art of War with Greg Jackson, an MMA trainer, the best MMA trainer. Deliverance. Caddyshack with Greg Fitzsimmons over at Greg's place in his garage. Hilarious one. We Are Anonymous, a two-parter. Somebody at the time, a fucking advertiser, talked me into fucking doing splitting them up so I could get more ad space out of them. I have had my run-ins with advertisers. I'll get to that in a minute. Ego with Bert Kreischer. Me and Bert have had some good ones. We probably won't have any anymore. Love Scam. Tough one to listen to. Podcast on a plane with Joe Rogan. I did one on a fucking airplane. It was because you talk louder on a podcast. You didn't realize you talk louder. Bugging the shit out of the people in front of us. They were like, would you shut the fuck up? The first time I got a cell phone, I remember talking on it at Carney's diner. I don't know what you would call it. Hot dog place. And I didn't know how to talk on a cell phone. So I was like, yeah, wow, that's really cool. And some lady, after I was done, she goes, hey, thanks for ruining my meal. And man, because she could have just said it nicely. If she said it at any point during that conversation, I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. She goes, hey, can you keep it down? I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize but she said it so demeaning. She said, thanks for ruining my meal with your loud talking. And I just go, shut up, cunt. I was proud of myself. Fat with Ralphie May. He's talking about his fat and how it affects him. More than we knew. Parent Hoodwinked. Crazy Train with Christina P. Buddhism with Duncan Trussell. On race, me and Godfrey talked about, we were going to talk about tea, and then we got into a fucking real open race discussion where we really just like talked without judging each other. It was fucking great. It was a great one. I'm trying to think right now of all the people I've had on my podcast that I have no interest in talking to anymore as humans. A lot. I'm still proud we had good content. Weirdo. That I did one with Brent Weinbach. We also did one road trip on the way down from San Francisco to LA. We talked about hemorrhoids. We stopped at Gilroy. We stopped at fucking Casa de Fruta. That was a fucking good one. I like doing them in the car. I like doing them in weird places. I really do. Going Blind with Tom Segura about masturbation. Fame with Joe Rogan early on. That was like 9.5 years ago. And I think even then, we got to go back and listen to it. It'll be up on the fucking YouTube channel soon. I think even then he was like, I think I'm too famous and I don't want to get any more famous. And guess what, Joe? You fucked up. You got a lot more famous. Not me. I can walk around Ecuador. Nobody fucking notices me. Struggling to pay my bills. Please sign up for Ari Shaffir's Patreon so I can not go broke later this year. Shroomfest is after the very first time I took mushrooms with some guys, and we just said, this is when Shroomfest is going to be. Next year's Shroomfest, well, put it up on the screen. I don't know it right now. I got to look. It's the longest day of weekend of moonlight in the summer, every summer. The Cleanup, Faith with Pete Holmes, way back before he even had a podcast. Man, I've had some good ones. And some album commentaries. I do these series. I got to make its own podcast. These album commentaries that I do where I take people's very first album, usually very first album, and I discuss it with the real comedian. We discuss it academically. We've done it with Bobby Kelly was the last one. Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer, Steve Simone's done 2. Louis Katz, Kyle Kinane, Joe Rogan about Shiny Happy Jihad, the album he made that I was opening for him the whole way. And me, Ari Shaffir, I was the first one. It was episode 2014. It was in 2014 about my first album, Revenge for the Holocaust. We just discuss every detail about how these bits were made and everything. Those are great ones. Those are great ones. I got to make a whole playlist of just those album commentaries. Becky, get on that. I've had some fun interviews. I've had some terrible ad reads. In fact, I've lost some ads because I like to have fun with the ad reads. I like to have fun. The very first one I lost was from Satva Mattresses. Tom Segura graciously brought a bunch of us back when we were all struggling. We were just struggling to make money. He goes, Ari, I got an ad read for you. Satva Mattresses. They're going to pay us like $1,000 to do an ad read. We'd never heard of that kind of fucking money before. And I did a great ad read where I talked about Christina Pazitsky, his lovely wife, strapping on a dildo and fucking Tom in the ass. Fucking him until he bled as he begged her to stop. But she was like, no, you like it, you dirty little freak. They listened to it in the car. They told me how much they were laughing while they were listening to it. And I said the whole time, I was like, but Tom's knees, while he was getting railed from behind, were super soft and protected from the softness of a Satva mattress. Man, it was funny. It was one of my best ad reads. Satva didn't like it. They're a family company. I took it down. It doesn't exist anymore anywhere. Wish I hadn't. Wish I still had that one. Another one for Blue Chew. I was doing a podcast about dogs, and I talked about how if you want to fuck your dog, Blue Chew is the only way it's going to happen. You're not sexually attracted to your dog, but you want to connect with them. You want to connect with them on an emotional level. You want to be inside them. But you can't get a hard on. You can't get a hard on to fuck your dog. You're not attracted to dogs, but you do want to connect. Blue Chew will help you get there because it gives you boners. They didn't like that one either. They said it was promoting, what's the word where you fuck dogs? I have an old friend who knew that. Bestiality. And I was like, well, it's humor. I'm not actually promoting bestiality, but either way, the relationship was lost. It'll never come back. It's a fucking good ad read, though. Don't you want that, advertisers? Don't you want me fucking going nuts? Anyway. Whatever. Here are some of my dream podcasts I've always wanted. One that I missed, that I'll never be able to get back again. Fred Phelps, the leader and starter of the Westboro Baptist Church. I was on an interview once, a radio interview with Joe Rogan and some radio hosts. I forget where it was. And we had, the daughter was on. And we all started like, they started actually like yelling at her, trying to make fun of her, got a rise out of her. But right then, this is before I started my podcast, I was like, man, I want to know about her. I want to know what her deal is. I don't want to be like, fuck you, you're evil. It's like, obviously we don't agree with it, but I want to know, and I wanted to get Fred on. I was like, what are you going for here? And like, so if you don't know Fred Phelps, Westboro Baptist Church, they would go and when soldiers were being buried, they would go and picket, and they say it's because the military let gays in. God hates fags, shit like that. And I want to know, like, well, you know, this military guy is not a homosexual, so do you feel bad at all about their relatives trying to bury someone they love, or is it worth, like, what do you think is worth angering bereaved people? And I know what you're going to say, like, oh, you fuck with bereaved people, but no, I don't. I do it to my own little fan base. You guys push that to them. Yeah, I just want to know, what's your end goal? Shit like that, I really wanted to know. Never got him on. Another one, I wanted to get a guy, it's never going to happen. I'm not even going to talk about it, but I wanted to get someone who's honest. And I've buried some podcasts. The first prostitution podcast I got, the lady just wasn't honest at all. I could tell, and I was like, well, this is not what I want. I want an honest take on things, not a fucking make me look good take on things. So, chucked it. I wanted to get one with this guy, a plagiarist, but we never got it together, and I'm not sure he would have been honest. Those are some of my dream podcasts. 10 years of Skeptic Tanks, and I've done it from cool places, too. Intros at least, or full podcasts. Iceland, we did it from all over Iceland, me and Ari Eljarn. Ari Eljarn's an Icelandic comedian, so big that when I went to the airport, the second time I was there, I'm glad I've become friends with him. I showed the lady at the gate my ID, and she goes, your name is Ari? And I was like, yeah. She goes, like the comedian? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a comedian. And she goes, no, Ari Eljarn, the comedian, the great Icelandic comedian. And I'm like, what? Biggest comic in Iceland. He has a Netflix special. You got to watch it. Iceland, Australia, Cambodia, I did one. All about Myanmar while in Cambodia with William Childress. I've done it from Scotland. That's the one I did with, I've done a few from there, but that's the one I did with Henry Rollins. We did in Edinburgh, Scotland. I did one with Bert on a cruise ship. I've done them from cars. I've done them from the front patio of the Comedy Store with Bill Burr, Doug Benson. One of my favorite memories. And I like when people come and interrupt me. I like doing it outdoors. I like doing it in places that might be public where we might get interrupted and get some shit out of it. Me and Doug Benson, famed stoner Doug Benson, we're doing a podcast, I think, called 1 Year in New York. Getting high, obviously. What the fuck else are you going to do with Doug Benson? How dare you not? And we were sitting there getting high. Two things happened. One, some people walked by looking for the Comedy Store. And it was before the Comedy Store was as famous as it is. But they were like, hey, it was daytime. Like, is there shows? And Doug said, no, I don't know. He's not really a regular there. And they were like, this girl and a guy. She's like, I know your voice. What's your voice? I know your voice from somewhere. He goes, I don't know. She goes, man, your voice sounds so familiar. To Doug Benson. And he goes, I don't know. And right then he just slowly picked up a joint and put it in his mouth. And she goes, oh, Doug Benson! I don't know if that was on air or not. But another part, I don't know if this was on air or not either, but I hope it was. I'm also a stoner. I forget a lot of this shit. We're sitting there, smoking reefer, talking on a podcast. And these, you know the guys that come by and they're selling candy for their fucking raise money for their basketball team to go to a class trip or whatever the fuck it is. I don't know if it's a scam. I don't know. I've never bought them from them before, ever. They're on the subway like, no thanks, no thanks, no thanks. They came by and they said, hey, would you like to donate to our school? We're raising money to go on a class trip. There's two young African-American children, and they opened up their case. It was full of Skittles and Starburst and lots of other candy. And I was like, man, you came to the right place. And we bought them out. We bought them the fuck out. We ate all that shit. Still one of the only person to ever come on fucking Getting Dug with High with candy. What the fuck's wrong with everybody? Ungrateful pricks. I've done them from Maui, Thailand, Mexico. One with Brett Ernst and fucking Florentine. I did it from Mexico, Cabo. I did one from the Great Wall of China. I think one of the Nick Youssef episodes. I did the intro from on top of the Great Wall of fucking China. Where else are you going to get that? But Ari Shaffir, Skeptic Tank. I can't be good, but I can be pretty being bad. And now, here I am in Ecuador. Doing them still. DIY, motherfuckers. It's been a great 10 years. And I got a lot of shit planned for you in the future. I'm going to do more podcasts. I'm going to make playlists on YouTube of those album commentaries. I got another podcast I'm about to start, which I think would be like a subset of this, but probably its own thing. I hope I'm going to introduce you to lots more funny comedians that in 10 years, you're going to go like, oh, did I hear them way before? Me and Theo Vaughn, the fucking giant theater act, Theo Vaughn. We did one where about hiking. We talked about climbing Kilimanjaro to base camp. Let's relax. We did it while we're on a hike. I like doing them, walking around. Me and Joe Rogan did one on a hike near his old place in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is no longer around, but it was a great town while it lasted. So I'm going to bring you lots more podcasts. At least for a few years till I quit this motherfucker because no one's fucking listening anymore. Do me a favor and tell some friends. Tell some friends about your favorite episodes and go back and listen to the ones I told you about. They're great ones. If you were like, some of these aren't winners. All those ones I told you about, those are winners. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And guys, it's been fucking great. It's been a great 10 years. And if people hadn't fucking told each other about this, if the fans hadn't said, hey, and spread the word for me, I wouldn't have done it this long. So thank you, the listeners. Honestly, I enjoy doing this. I enjoy doing it, but if no one's listening, let's be honest, I ain't going to do it. The only reason I'm doing this podcast is to promote dates. You know, I'm a stand-up comic. I do this to promote dates, and I do some fun ones in the way. Yeah, I'm wearing this dumb fucking outfit. I'm wearing this ridiculous outfit that I got in Otavalo, Ecuador, to bring you some fucking life in this weird surrounding. I like shooting weird shit. I like shooting it from the inside of a stream. I like shooting it. I gotta stop smoking those fake cigars. I like shooting them weird. I like bringing you to weird places. Studios are fine, but I like being out there. I like doing stuff, and I like inviting you along with me. So if you continue to tell your friends, Ari Shaffir Skeptic about, hey, you might not like the guy, but the fucking episodes are solid. Spread the word for me. Do me a favor. Maybe we can get another 10 years out of this motherfucker. So you know what else I could use from you guys? More suggestions on great interviews. More people that I want to get. Oh, here's a couple people I want to get too in terms of dream podcasts. Susan Cain, the author of Quiet, all about introverts. I've wanted to get her on for a while. I almost did once. Shit happens. Sometimes I end up getting my dream guest. Sometimes I'm a little too self-doubting, and I'm like, why would you want to do something for me? Maybe I should be more confident. Maybe I should have hired somebody to help me get guests. Never happened. Susan Cain, Gia Tolentino, whatever her name is, wrote this great book. Who else did I really want to? Oh, Tulsi Gabbard. I want to hear what Congress is like day to day. That was another one I was close on. I was so fucking close. That'd be a good one. And then I have another one I'm going to do soon with Joe Rogan. That's going to be a fucking really strong one. But I got to do it in person with him because it's going to be a long time. But yeah, if you have suggestions, who should do it, reach out to them. Say, please do Ari Shaffir Skeptic Tank podcast. And reach out to me, either in the comments or otherwise, and tell Becky, say, hey, Becky, tell Ari to get this person on. And tell me what the topic is. Oh, another dream podcast I always wanted to get, a pedophile. I wanted to get someone who's actually has done it, or at least has the urges, but definitely has done it. I want to get that side of it. I want to know if they feel bad and if I can humanize them in some way. I'm not worried about the backlash. I've been canceled too many times to really worry about that. But I want to know. I want to know what they're actually like. I want to know what their details are. I want to know why they do it, if they feel bad. And do they have clubs? Is there a pedophile bar? I don't know. So lots of stuff. Topic and fun guest. That's what I'm into. If you have any suggestions, I'm all fucking ears. If any of you know a pedophile who's willing to be open about it, please get at me. Please contact me. I don't know who else could do it as fucking real and honest and keeping it entertained as well as I can. I would love it if you could get me one of those dream guests. If you also could somehow weekend at Bernie's Fred Phelps, get him out of the grave and get him to talk, I would love that too. Oh, you know what I'm going to do now? To celebrate 10 years of fucking Ari Shaffir Skeptic Tank podcast? You know what I'm going to do now? And all the fucking fun places I've told you about? You know what a fun one is? I do stuff about a city. I did one with Des Bishop in Shanghai about Shanghai. I've done them about different places. South Africa with Luisa Goila. I've done them about places. And now, to celebrate this, I'm in Ecuador right now. And I'm going to smoke a fucking Cuban cigar. What is this? A Monte Cristo? It's a fucking... Smells good. It's a fake-ass Cuban cigar. No fucking way you can get a real Monte Cristo for fucking... This one was $6. This Cohiba, $4.50. And this Cohiba was $6. These are fake as shit. They're going to be terrible. I'm almost positive. I'm going to smoke it. I'm going to breathe into my lungs whatever fucking impurities the Ecuadorian knockoff artists who made this cigar put in there. I think they just take sweepings off the floor and shove them in there. And I'm going to celebrate. I enjoy being fun places, and I enjoy taking you to those places. Do me a favor, sign up for my Patreon, patreon.com/Ari Shaffir. You get more travel stories if you enjoy that. And here's to another 10 years. For 10 years of Ari Shaffir Skeptic Tank, I'm Ari Shaffir saying so long. Nailed it that time. Fucking nailed it that time. That deserves a fake Cohiba.